If there's one thing that we've come to expect from Disney, it is failing and screwing up every single thing that they touch. And it's not just Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy, it's their major releases. Much like Mulan before it, Raya and the Last Dragon completely failed at the box office and fell short of expectations, getting beat by an incredibly mediocre Tom and Jerry. I'm beginning to sense a pattern here, Disney. Mulan, Raya. So let's get back to that investor call that occurred yesterday, March 9th. Good old Bobby C was laying it on super thick as usual, and then he got tripped up by a couple of actual legit questions. A Disney shareholder from Texas dared to ask the question, quote, "Are you guys looking at firing Kathleen Kennedy or asking her to resign and promote somebody like Filoni or Favreau or both to the council?" Unquote. Balls. Straight up balls. The question everyone wants to know the answer to. And what did we get? We got 6 inches of frosting on a fresh pile of dog shit. Quote, "We've been absolutely thrilled that we can have the kind of creative talent in our company, the likes of Kathleen Kennedy running Lucas. And we look forward to having Kathy directing the activities of the entire Lucasfilm organization for many years to come." Unquote. Oh my God, that's like bad junior high thespian society stuff right there. I mean, you could just tell that cat didn't believe a word of what he was saying. When you've been around corporate America for several decades, you get to understand what statements like that mean. In fact, Bob Chapek has had a moving van on speed dial this whole time. They have movers that they probably have had sleeping in the basement, waiting for just the right moment to clear out her office and to bring someone else. The problem is they have to let her screw up to such an extent that the decision will not have been made by them. They will have been forced by someone else, namely the shareholders, to make the decision. That's how this works now. That's how corporate America leads. It's never by making a decision, it's by being forced to do something by circumstances which they can then point to as being why it had to happen. It's how to evade responsibility while taking all of the credit. As the numbers shown by the Disney Lucasfilm Star Wars trilogy have shown, Kathleen Kennedy is failing to deliver on Disney's $4 billion investment. And not only that, the amount of animosity and fan ill will has reached such a level where you had that gentleman from Texas actually bringing up such an embarrassing and pointed question about firing a woman in a leadership position in Hollywood in 2021. And you know, this question doesn't just come from the performance of the Disney sequel trilogy. It comes from all of the mismanagement and hirings and firings and replacements and obfuscation that have occurred over all of the Lucasfilm projects. And oh yeah, I know there's a pandemic going on, but you're seeing other productions getting developed. But what do I know? I'm just an istophobic, toxic fan who doesn't understand the true creative genius of Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm current year. You know, one thing that's undeniable about the quality of leadership from Ms. Kennedy is the fact that between The Force Awakens and the release of The Rise of Skywalker, the decline in the box office was nearly 50%. And what was worse is that domestic video sales declined by 65%. Nobody wanted The Rise of Skywalker on DVD or Blu-ray. Hell, nobody wanted The Rise of Skywalker at all. I've never even seen it, and I never will. But to Disney, none of that matters. What really counts are upvotes and shares and likes on Twitter. It's not multiple viewings of the Star Wars sequel trilogy. It's not tons of sales of DVDs and Blu-rays. None of that matters. What really counts is the currency of the virtue signal. Which leads us into Gina Carano. Disney, denial is not just a river in Egypt. I almost feel bad for you with the ratios that you're seeing on every post that you put out, whether it be for new product or High Republic. Nobody is happy with you. There's an old Klingon proverb that goes, "Revenge is a dish best served on the internet." And boy, you're getting it good. You took the best thing about The Mandalorian, the most popular, true, strong, independent woman, and not just fired her, but canceled her career in Hollywood over a different cultural opinion. It wasn't even political. Nothing in that was about politics. It was about a different perspective on the world and current events. America, at least the America that I grew up in, was not a state and state-owned media-controlled monoculture where only one opinion was allowed to be expressed, where there was only one party, where there was only one, air quotes, truth, unquote. What are you doing? Who are you working for? Where is this all going? I'm not the only one. Check it out. There's a guy from Virginia who asked a question that aligns exactly with what I was talking about. It's clear that there is a new blacklist punishing conservatives in the entertainment industry. Disney Plus actors Pedro Pascal and Gina Carano tweeted similar analogies of current political events to the bad guys in Germany. Yet, only Carano, who is considered a conservative, was fired from The Mandalorian. Regarding Disney and a blacklist, is this the way? You would have never heard questions like this before to Disney. There might be some regarding their political donations and what campaigns they support, but nothing as pointed and direct as, "Are you going to fire Kathleen Kennedy?" and "WTF on the Gino Carano thing." Now, I listened to the audio of both of those instances, and you can tell good old Bobby C., he's not necessarily pooping big bricks, but the dude's having his cage rattle just a tiny bit. You can hear it in his voice. You can hear it in what he's saying. Rattling off those platitudes with a flatness of someone who doesn't like to be questioned by the little people. And in a different tone of voice, he tells us, the peasants, and those listening on the investor call, quote, "I don't really see Disney as characterizing itself as left-leaning or right-leaning, yet instead standing for values. Values that are universal, values of respect, values of decency, values of integrity, and values of inclusion," unquote. You know, I heard that and I thought about President Snow from the Hunger Games standing up there glaring down at Katniss. Pan Am today, Pan Am tomorrow, Pan Am forever. The bite-sized sentences exactly match the cadence of that Hunger Games speech. Hasn't it felt like that a lot lately? Being talked down to, being put in our place, being on another side of the fence from those that claim that they're working for the good of all of us here in America? Oh, what do I know? It's just Disney. It's just Bob Chapek. It's just an investor call. Chapek concluded his answer in saying, quote, "And we seek to have not only how we operate, but the content that we make reflect the rich diversity of the world we live. And I think that's a world we all should live in harmony in peace, unquote. God. You know, when I was a little kid, there was a Coca-Cola commercial that had a bunch of hippies sitting around with guitars and like a field singing about they'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I don't think that's exactly what Bob Chapek is saying. I think that there is a iron fist of harmony that maybe Disney's talking about, but hey, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. No, I'm not. Look at what they did to Gina Carano. Tell me all about harmony now, Bob. If Lucasfilms and Disney actually really valued inclusion, you would allow different cultural and worldviews other than the ones that look nice in a Twitter post. You know, the ones with all kinds of icons and pronouns and labels and acronyms and blue hairs. There is more than one way, Disney. You can mince words and push a narrative all you want, but at the end of the day, the box office and your bottom line, they don't lie. You know, all I know is how you treated Gina Carano. You fired her in a freaking social media post. You, to be generous, obfuscated, to be, I would say, accurate, lied about her post, what it said, what it meant, what she did, and the ceaseless attacks that had occurred on her through no fault of her own. As the article in Bounding into Comics says, that's not respect, that's disrespect. And it's not decency, it's indecent and rude. And it sure as hell isn't inclusive. A monoculture of forced opinion with media that aligns with a narrative driven by, I don't know, where do we think all this is coming from? That type of a world, I don't want to live in. I'm not interested in, and I think there's a lot of people in this country, and let's be honest, around the world, that have no interest in it either. No one appointed you to be the arbiter of morality, of diversity and inclusion, Bob Chapek and Disney. We appointed you to make entertainment. That appointment comes from the dollars that we spend. That's it. That's where it stops. You want to hold a line, you can do it as an individual, you can do it as a corporation, but don't lecture the rest of us when we don't agree with your totalitarian approach and your short-sighted, incredibly narrow view of what is American, of what is diverse, what is inclusive, and what is harmony. There is a whole other world outside of Hollywood. You fly over it all the time. Each of us have different worldviews and experiences. They may be different than yours, but they're no less real, important, or worth hearing. You don't have to listen to them, but you can't just shut them off. You don't get to dehumanize people who don't agree with your worldview. That's not tolerance, that's intolerance, Disney. We are each of us individuals with individual actions. We're not just XY coordinates on some intersectional bingo card. You don't get to cancel whoever you don't like and don't agree with. That's intolerance. Your way is not the only way. We as fans haven't changed. But Disney, you've changed. I love science fiction and fantasy. I'm a huge fan, especially of Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, a whole bunch of crazy like B movies from the 80s. But that's withered and died since, say, 2016. I did something, though, a few weeks ago that I can't really explain to you what I did, why I did it. And this is the freaking truth. I invested a bunch of money in buying Cara Dune merchandise. You know, the character played by Gina Carano on The Mandalorian. I had seen The Mandalorian only from clips on YouTube. I wasn't about to give Disney Plus any money. But as soon as I found out what they had did to Ms. Carano, I wanted to do something. And I'm not on social media. I'm not. I think let's just end it there. But I went out and I bought her action figures. I bought a couple Funko Pops. They're in my office. I don't have any other action figures. I don't have any bobbleheads. But I wanted hers. They're here when I record my podcasts to remind me why I'm doing this. Now I'm going to circle back once again to the Hunger Games. And there's a line that comes out of, I believe it's the second movie, where Finn says, "Remember who the real enemy is." I'm not your enemy, Disney. I'm not your enemy, Star Wars. I'm not your enemy, Star Trek. I'm not your enemy, Doctor Who. But you have definitely decided that I am yours. Why? And very clearly, Gina Carano was designated as an enemy of Lucasfilm and Disney for expressing a different cultural and worldview opinion. Why? How can individual opinions be so dangerous to you, Disney? How? How can my opinion as a fan be so dangerous and so abhorrent that I need to be called toxic? I need to be called an istophobe? I'm baffled by this. Look at what's being posted on your Star Wars YouTube channel. Look at what's being posted on the Oscars related to Kathleen Kennedy. I'm not alone in this. And I'm not alone in not being an alt-right Russian troll, istophobic, whatever the Twitter du jour thing is that suddenly is being canceled that we love. I'm just a fan. I'm just a person. I'm just an American, maybe with a different worldview. Well, whatever it is, whatever you're so afraid of, Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Chapek, whatever is so abhorrent about someone who works for you having a different worldview, a different cultural experience, you must be really afraid of what it is that you don't want uncovered. Is a box office decline of nearly 50% with The Force Awakens to The Rise of Skywalker and all of the ill will that you have created, is it worth it? Do your investors think it's worth it? Will your investors continue to accept your intolerance? Based upon the call that you had yesterday, I don't think so. This Gina Carano thing, it's not going anywhere. And I, for one, am glad about that. We need to keep talking about what this is. Who will it be tomorrow? Who's going to step out of line and lose everything? Oh, this is madness. I'm Corey B., and this is Salty Salish Sea.